Welcome to the Night Pod Cometh, where we talk about the legendary comedy show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I am your host, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, and I'll give you 50 cents for a buck.
I think that sounds like a good deal.
I'm here with Magnum Mills and the Soupdeucer to talk about the season 16 premiere of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the episode titled The Gang Inflates. Guys, we fired up to get inflated?
Well, hey, I can blow up my own bed and I can deflate it in the morning. I'll inflate it, I'll deflate it. It'll be like I was never here. Plus, I brought my own nuts.
Jamie G, I get it, man. With your, 50 cents for a buck, you got to hang on to some of that nut, right? Otherwise, it's all gone. I am Magnum Mills. Thank you for checking out the Night Pod Cometh. Find us wherever you get your pods, on YouTube, on social media, at Night Pod Cometh. And if you could, please, don't forget the flaps. You never want your pilot to do it, nor should you. Follow, like, and please subscribe. Helps other people find our show, find our channel. We really appreciate it. Please and thank you. Soupdeucer, introduce yourself.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Night Pod Cometh. I am the Soupdeucer, and I am drinking Busch Ice, and I'm drinking them at a pretty fucking solid rate here. So we're geared up and ready to go. Start talking about the fucking new episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, man. So here we are.
Here we are, and there you are, and you need to be aware that this is going to be 100% a full spoiler show. Every single thing associated with Sunny, including all previous episodes, podcasts, interviews, you name it, all the like. It's fair game for discussion here. This is your first and final warning.
Did I mention that I brought some nuts with me? I'm going to eat these while we're doing the show because why not? They're pretty fucking fancy,
Let's do this thing!
This is season 16, episode 1, the 163rd overall episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, titled The Gang Inflates, originally aired June 7th, 2023. Directed by Heath Cullins. This is the 11th episode of Sunny that he has directed. Written by Nina Pedrad. This is her second written by credit on Sunny. Guest starring William Romeo as Sir Lieutenant. The short plot synopsis is Dennis and Matt get into inflatable furniture to deal with the economy's inflation, while Dee tries to find a place to crash after being evicted by her greedy landlord, and Charlie wants to pitch Frank on his crypto online investment idea.
It's very cryptic, and Mills, while you're at it, any other notable information, whatnot, general things that should be pointed out here before we get off and away?
Well, I should point out that we do always keep it crypto on the Night Pod Cometh. Frank talks about pissing in cans. That's a reference to Being Frank from season 11. We've seen Charlie offer nuts that he's found or forged before, most notably in season 6's Mac Fights Gay Marriage. And we've also seen Mac and Dennis share a bed before, back in The Gang Gets Romantic, the season 14 premiere.
Well, before we go through the episode in detail, we'll start out with our overall thoughts on The Gang Inflates. Soup, give me your general thoughts on this thing.
Overall, I think it was a pretty good first episode for a season, man. It brought you right back into getting familiar with these characters again. Like, hey, welcome back, everybody. Good to hang with you again for a few, with their crazy scenarios and whatnot. I think the scenarios in this episode are pretty fucking good, man. They didn't go too crazy, but they went a little crazy, enough to grab your attention and want you and get you to want to watch, the rest of it. Being true to the shit they do, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll kind of give it, I tend to agree with all that. I mean, I think it was a good first episode. I mean, this is a show that's been going on 16 seasons now. These guys are old, they're trying to stay relevant. And I think for the most part, they accomplished that. And, last thing you want is just, you never want this to just turn into kind of like a nostalgia act. So I appreciate them trying to like mix it up and stay relevant and do the inflation thing. They kind of did that last season. With 2020 year in review, where they tried to kind of, bring into real life into the show a little bit. They did it well. I think it works. All the characters were good for the most part. Thought D really didn't serve much of a purpose here, but overall, I thought it was a good first episode of the season. I'm still pretty excited after this one about where they're going to go with the rest of the 7 episodes.
I agree with basically everything y'all have said. This has never really been a show that's gone nuts with the season premieres. They got on a little run there for a minute with, especially I remember The Gang Beats Boggs. came in hot. Charlie McDennis too. They've come in, fairly hot on a couple of seasons, but it's also been a little bit slow at times. And you can forgive him here again. It's been, almost 2 years since we got a new episode. A lot has happened. These are very busy people now. But I think most importantly, this feels like an episode of Sunny. It pretty much tracks. Again, you can make some quibbles about how it could have possibly taken this long to discover this kind of stuff in Charlie's apartment and everything. But for the most part, we don't care about that as long as it's funny. I think my main complaint has to be, it seems like either they didn't have access to Caitlin Olsen or they just couldn't fit her in the story or something, because she literally does almost nothing the entire episode except just glue her hand to shit. And we saw this back and before in the Old Lady House of Situation comedy, where that was back when she was filming the Mick on Fox, and they just had her like get her head stuck in the banister and did fart jokes when you didn't have to see her the whole episode. It felt kind of like that. So I'm assuming for some reason it was a scheduling thing, so we couldn't have a lot of D. I'll go with it that way. But that's really my own my only negative. And the online support of it, watching the episode, kind of going through the Twitter feeds and everything, seemed positive. So good one overall, I think.
Well, I think it's time to start blowing this thing up. Mills, you're a renter full of hot air. Why don't you start the blowing?
Thanks for rubbing it in, man. It's 11:47 a.m. on a Friday. At Paddys, Charlie is talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, while Mac and Dennis search the internet for a new couch. As Frank tries to explain inflation, he gets a call from Dee saying that her landlord raised the rent and she's being evicted. Frank hangs up and ignores her repeated calls. Charlie claims that he's learned a lot about business from Frank, and he tries to pitch an idea. Dennis shuts him down, claiming that he doesn't know anything about business. Mac and Dennis quickly prove themselves to be bad businessmen as well when they give Frank a $10 bill in exchange for a $5 bill. Jamie G, Soup, can you really believe that the value of money can change?
Well, the value of money can change, but not like how they explained it there. And once again, Frank, man, you got to hand it to him, dude. He knows how to turn a buck.
Yeah, true.
The idea that they paid almost 20 grand for this couch is just hysterical. And just basic math, if you just take the depreciation down on it, by year 15, your couch, assuming it was worth like $1,200 to begin with, and this is back in 2000 money, $1,200 couch, solid ass couch, is worth about $40 in real value 15 years in, and they would still be paying $1,200 a year basically in interest for an effective APR of a shade over 2,800%.
Not bad business there.
Nice work. And you kept it crypto.
I would just say I did enjoy kind of like this scene as they're all kind of sitting around talking and explaining shit, and Charlie's kind of got some smarts about him, and the whole time Dee's just in a panic calling. I actually thought for Dee not being in this episode, she really showed up in this scene and kind of made it funny, where she's calling every phone and different, with her hand glued. It was just unfortunate because after that the gag wasn't cool and she just kept doing it, and it's like, but that initial one was cool.
That's so Dee, right? She finds one thing that kind of works and just like rides it into the ground. We'll get to it in a minute, but it was a great visual of her gluing her hand to something while her other hand was still glued to a piece of something else. That was a nice visual. Good writing here. They set up a couple things. Charlie with the Ninja Turtles. And I think if you watch this a second time, it's way funnier that Frank is just hanging up on Dee because he's her landlord who raised her rent. So he knows he's evicting her. He doesn't care. And Dennis also hanging up on her when she calls the bar phone. Charlie ignoring the call from her. You see her call everyone in the gang. I thought that was just excellent. I will say they kind of lean into the whole the nut thing here. That reminded me a lot of the cream pie bit from the Gang Spies Like Us. And the way Mac and Dennis celebrate, like how they were, we're only paying $25 a week for the couch or whatever. That reminded me a ton of Mac and Dennis Buy a Timeshare, where they celebrate like buying two. And they ask Frank about it later. And he's like, so what? You think the guy's idea wasn't to sell you as many timeshares as possible? I'm like, oh. Like, it's at that part of it here. I always love when they think that they're doing a smart. They're usually not.
No, they're usually not.
After the opening credits, we're in Mac and Dennis's apartment. Dennis is worrying about their finances, but Mac has solutions, including an inflatable couch and a $3 economy-size can of fancy nuts. Dennis isn't a big fan of the nuts, but he finds the inflatable couch thing intriguing.
Well, I got some fucking nuts right here, man. I got a fucking thing of nuts that I've been eating, these spicy cashews, and they're fucking awesome. They're fancy and they're fucking good, man. Are they low end? I don't think so, but who knows, man.
I will say that like at the beginning, I really like this, but I just think they took it a tad too far here with the whole as you know Mac's face swells. But I did like that they kind of leaned into the nuts and kind of did a double entendre, like doubled up on the nut thing here, which I thought was pretty cool. But I think they stretched it a smidge, but you know I get why they did it.
Doubling up on the nut thing, dude. You know, I mean,
The nut double up, dude. I mean, we've all
double up,
done it.
dude.
Double nut. And it's funny, the only food we actually see, if you even want to call it food, in Mac and Dennis's fridge is sour cream. I like the whole bit that Mac now just all he consumes is Dwayne Johnson energy drinks. I thought that was just a funny little kind of one-off joke. And I have to say, when Mac goes,
Oh, that's got blowing and blowing and blowing. Just boom.
all I can think of was Sterling Archer being like,
So we're just done with phrasing, right? That's not a thing anymore?
Well, he already popped two of them, you know. So
that was great when they pan over to show the two couches he fucked up. That directly reminded him of Mac and Dennis Moved to the Suburbs, where Mac tries to hang the TV and he says, oh, it didn't quite get it on the first try. The camera pans over and you just see all the holes in the wall from him trying to hang the TV up before. So
yeah,
I don't know if that was an
hilarious.
intentional callback, but it was fucking great. Over at Frank and Charlie's apartment, Charlie tries to pitch Frank on a business idea while Frank puts a lamp in the storage closet. However, things get derailed when Frank discovers that the storage closet is, in fact, a bathroom, complete with a real but noisy toilet. This causes Frank to open the other door in the apartment, which leads to a spacious, unused room. Dee, Dennis, and Mac all show up looking to talk to Frank. Frank denies Charlie's request to hear his business idea and Dee's request to stay in the new room. He kicks the two of them out so he can hear Dennis and Mac's pitch in his new office. I mean, are they even zoned for that? One question I have to ask, you see a lot of things in the apartment, one of which is a jar sitting on a speaker that is simply labeled options. You have to be kind of intrigued, right? They just have a jar labeled options. I mean, I thought all I could. The weird answer would be sex dice, I guess. That would be something correct to put in a jar labeled options. But I went with it. It's related to Nightcrawlers somehow. That's what I got. Somehow it comes into play when you're playing Nightcrawlers.
Yeah. I mean, a double-headed,
like Community Chest or Chance of Monopoly, right? You got an options jar in Nightcrawlers, maybe. That's what I got.
Nightcrawlers, man. Darkness falls.
Oh, it's stirring. And nice setup with the random lamp here. I thought it was more of a callback, but then we see later when Frank's robbing his tenants who's behind on rent, he's just taking lamps.
yeah.
I don't think that's very profitable, but it was a funny little bit that they kept going. And all of the old school stuff is great. They have a stereo tuner like out of the 70s, 80s, standalone cassette deck, old TV, VCR, a fucking 8-track player, CD tower, vinyl records, record player, cassette tapes, a guitar. Like, we never really hear him play music, though, right? That's a lot of shit. We never really see him watching TV or playing music, like, ever.
Yeah.
Play more Nightcrawlers than music.
I mean, it was a bigger closet than what it ever, that was more storage than what you ever thought they had in there. That's for sure.
Well, he likes to keep it simple, man, so it's weird that you would completely fucking close off an entire other room.
I'm just going to ask, do you have any idea why Charlie really did this? I mean, he says he's got to walk a mile. I thought that was a pretty funny gag of him being annoyed at having to walk like an extra 10 feet.
Oh, yeah.
But he's also the janitor, right? You know how many toilets he's fixed? The idea that he couldn't fix a noisy toilet kind of bothered me. And also, if you look in that room, that's where the fuse box is. Like the circuit breaker's in that room. So he has to at least go in there semi-regular, and it looks like it's been cleaned. It doesn't look like it's been abandoned for 15 years.
Right.
So you wonder if that's like Charlie's secret, like pounding off room when he didn't want to give it up. And the toilet, I guess. Maybe just man just likes to pee in a can. I don't know.
I think he just genuinely likes his life the way it is, and I think he likes having him and Frank share the room, and I think that's what it is, man.
I'm all right with that.
Wasn't he doing this before Frank even came into
a little bit? Yeah, that's why I didn't want to open that can of worms. I'm pretty sure he was doing it in season 1. He was still doing this, but it was a little bit different of a character. They've only now started to kind of bring back some of the season 1 stuff a little bit. So, I guess they brought it back a little bit before, but not too much. In the new quote unquote office, Mac has inflated a couch and a couple of chairs for them to sit on. Using photos of Kim Kardashian as a visual aid, they pitch Frank on injecting some capital into their inflatable furniture business. Frank immediately agrees, provided that they leave the inflatable furniture for him, as well as the pictures of Kim Kardashian. And just remember, it's a loan. They have to pay him back with interest. Back in the main room, Charlie tries to explain his online currency idea to Dee, who has now glued her hand to their door. Dennis and Mac come out to gloat to Charlie about Frank buying into their idea. They warn Dee and Charlie not to go in there because Frank is busy.
He's
jacking off
right.
from a magazine.
Oh.
Frank really liked that Kim Kardashian magazine. He really, really, really did.
He's busy, and the little the squeak at the end there is great.
I enjoyed the different colored inflatables. In this room, they look comfortable, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed the leopard print, and it's just kind of funny. They kind of set up Charlie knowing what he's doing, but not in the first scene, but then not being able to really get it out in this scene. So I enjoyed that continuing. And yeah, I mean, I just, I thought it was cool accessories here with the inflatables.
The indoor piece of inflatable furniture. You ever had one?
I mean,
You must
maybe,
Sure.
maybe not a bean bag, but like just an inflatable, like maybe. Well, I've had an air mattress. I've had an air mattress.
Air mattress.
Air mattress doesn't count, I feel like. But this seems better than pool furniture.
I've definitely had a chair, inflatable chair and shit. It didn't last long. The shelf life on these things isn't,
The pink one that gets hit by the car seems like pool furniture, but the rest of the stuff seems like a little bit higher quality, maybe.
Yeah. More like material, right?
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't think you put that like they're sitting on the couch there in a pool, really. It doesn't quite look like that. Did definitely love the visual of Dee glued to, a door with another hand still glued to another piece of thing. Thought that was just pretty awesome. And of course, Mac starts blowing it and Dennis just cuts him off. He gives him like one little tiny chance, cuts him off. Classic Dennis. Later that night, Charlie can't sleep and he expresses his frustrations to Frank. Frank explains that he's not investing in Mac and Dennis because he believes in them. It's the exact opposite. He knows that they'll be paying him interest for the rest of their lives. This doesn't placate Charlie, and Frank leaves to sleep in the other room. The camera pans over, and we see that Dee is still there with her hand glued to the door. Over at Dennis and Mac's apartment, Mac's wheezing is keeping Dennis up. It's becoming increasingly obvious that Mac is allergic to the fancy nuts, but he denies it and keeps eating them, even in bed. Charlie bursts in, looking for a place to stay. He offers to inflate and deflate his own bed. It'll be like he was never there. Plus, he brought his own nuts. He agrees to give them information about Frank in exchange for staying the night there. Charlie tells him that Frank only gave them the money because he's a predatory lender. This gives Dennis an idea. Instead of selling the inflatable furniture, they're going to rent it. Dennis, I love you, baby. Not Ed. I don't think that one's making it on Shark Tank.
Yeah, man, that might not be the best idea. I like where his head was at, but I just don't know if that's going to work.
Off the top of your head, what's the cheapest thing you can actually rent? Like a baby stroller at a mall?
You can rent a movie on streaming it on like Amazon for like $2.99.
I was gonna say physical division, like that you could actually
I think
break.
you can rent the shopping cart for like a quarter or 50 cents or something in some stores.
All right, so but generally for what an inflatable furniture costs, I don't think you get much value for rental because the cost of acquisition is so low. People can actually afford it. That's why they can afford it. They were renting.
Right. I mean, an inflatable isn't going to be very expensive to just buy. So
right, like I would consider it to be probably comparable to an air mattress.
Yeah,
you get a decent one for $100 probably.
Oh yeah, shit, dude, you can get freaking a king for $100.
What do y'all think about the like the nuts gag? Are you cool with it? I mean, it's definitely going to keep running here.
I liked it at the beginning, but it's kind of starting to. At this point, it's kind of like, all right, maybe it's a bridge too far, and I still think maybe they went a little too heavy on that. Like, I think they could have let it go and it could have been just a funny thing, but I think they also needed to give Mac something here because he just didn't have anything in this one.
Yeah, they were maybe a little late. Love Mac's reply when Charlie says he brought his own nuts.
Are they fancy?
What does he say?
Are they fancy?
He wants to know if they're fancy.
I mean, I thought it was fun. That was one of the funnier things about the episode was the whole situation with that. Did they bring it up a couple too many times? Maybe. They should have maybe played a different angle on it instead of just the same thing over and over. It might have been cool, but I like that they kind of leaned into it there, man. You know, I mean, and it wasn't even the nuts, dude. It was all the blowing.
Might be allergic to the plastic.
Dude.
It's one of those joke things, right? If it starts out funny, then it becomes annoying, and you keep pushing through, and it's like even funnier a little bit. That's what they're going for. They're just committing to the bit, I think, or in this case, committing to the nuts.
Committing to the blowing and the nuts and the plastic.
I mean, you got to keep some of that nut, dude.
You really can. All of a sudden, then there's just no more nut. Back at Frank and Charlie's, Frank wakes Dee up at 4 a.m. and scrapes her hand off the door. Frank is apparently a landlord now, and they go into the apartment of a renter who's behind on his rent to take some stuff. Here, we find out that Frank is actually Dee's landlord now, so he's responsible for throwing her out of the apartment. The angry renter comes out with a shotgun and fires off a warning shot, leading Frank and Dee to get the hell out of there. Just point out, this is definitely a scene we saw in the trailer. We're quite sure what it was. Here it is. And I'm going to call shenanigans on Frank getting Dee's hand unglued from the door with a spatula.
I thought it was kind of funny, though, like that he's just trying to scratch, like, because, you know, he could have used, like, I don't know, a paint scraper or something. But I thought it was kind of funny that they used the spatula. It would have almost been even more funny if it would have been plastic, just because there's, like, no way. At least he had a metal one.
I will say that the usage of the spatula there was pretty fucking cool, man. It was a nice addition, dude. You know,
it was kind of funny.
Makes you wonder how committed Dee was to using the bathroom before. If he could scrape that off with a spatula, she could have pulled it off.
But what kind of glue has she got, man? I mean,
it's Dee. She has the one on her hand, so she obviously committed to the other one. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if she was, faking it. And nice job bringing around the bit with Frank and the lamps here. We see that. Like, oh, get lamps. They're easy, nice and light and easy to carry away. It's not worth anything unless they have a genie in it.
A collection of lamps, man. Yeah, and speaking of which, man, maybe that's a tie-in to that whole options jar, man. Maybe you rub that thing like a lamp, like the right way, man, and you get your options,
Well, save it for the gang gets cursed. Maybe one of those lamps did have a cursed genie or something. Could come back up. We don't know. We're teasing the future there. You have to stay tuned, find out. Next, Charlie and Dennis set up their inflatable furniture in front of an actual furniture store in an attempt to steal customers. Dennis once again refuses to listen to Charlie's idea. As they try to pitch a potential customer, the camera pans over to reveal Max sitting there as well. Then, a strong gust of wind sends an inflatable couch tumbling into the street, where it's destroyed by a passing car. Again, another scene we saw in the trailer here. We get the reveal that Mac is obviously allergic here. And I just want to point out, I'm not a fan of people camping out and selling shit in front of a store.
I really enjoyed this scene, though, as the wind, because you kind of, they did some good, it was good writing with the foreshadowing and like the wind starting to creep up. And you had a feeling like they're pretty light. They didn't have anything strapping them down. And I love that the pink one goes and just gets smashed by a car, dude. I thought that was cool. And it actually paid off with the, for me, it paid off with giving it away a little bit in the preview.
100%. And shout out to the guy who played the customer here. He was great with just kind of his reaction, both to like,
have you ever considered owning an inflatable couch?
Oh, yeah, I don't have a pool, so.
And then just when Charlie asked him how much he rents his furniture for, now he's like,
I don't rent my couch.
What? You pay full price for your couch?
Wasn't given a ton of lines. I thought he did very well with him. And I do want to point out probably the most successful person of all time to set up shop out front of another store. I don't have her name offhand, but back in the day when marijuana first became legal in California, there was a Girl Scout who set up shop right next to the first legal marijuana dispensary. And she sold 117 boxes of Girl Scout cookies in 2 hours.
Nice.
So there's your real MVP.
Cool, man. That is rock and roll, dude. I think it's crazy and hilarious that they set up shop right in front of a furniture store to sell their fucking blow up fucking couches and shit. I mean, that's like selling stolen meats out in the liquor store parking lot, man. I mean, it's ballsy. It's bold.
And it will get you shot in South Philly, realistically.
Probably.
After that, the guys return to Dennis and Mac's apartment, where Dee has glued herself to the wall once again. They really should lock their doors. Mac is looking even worse, but he refuses to go to the hospital. Finally, Charlie gets to pitch them on his idea. It's worded kind of funny, but it sounds like real money talk. They all agree to pool their remaining nut and invest in Charlie's idea. And I guess I just want to ask, Charlie gives this whole thing, again, it's worded very specifically, but what were you thinking he was into? Did you have any idea?
It was too obvious that it couldn't have been cryptocurrency because they just
a lot of
set
emphasis
it up
on the
much.
green kept coming back, and I was wondering if it was going to be like, an NFT of Green Man or something. That's about all I could come up with.
Yeah, I had a feeling it was going to be something kind of like an online, not marketing, but like an online like sales funnel or something where it's just going to do it for you. Like I had a feeling like he was going to something like that.
It's the inverted pyramid, the reverse funnel system, dude.
It's a pyramid scheme.
It's not a pyramid scheme. It's a reverse funnel system.
Turn it upside down.
Oh, God damn it! Shit!
I mean, which could work here. I mean, for these guys, it really could.
Yeah, we pointed out, again, they are just definitely jamming on a few gags in this episode, one of which being degluing herself to things. It's fine. Charlie sets it up by when he comes in earlier, being like, oh, you guys should really lock your doors. Again, doesn't really make sense, but I did laugh. Next, everybody but Frank gathers at Paddys, where Charlie reveals their investment. A box, the last box supposedly, of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies. Charlie proposes sitting on them for a while, and maybe eating one or two. Frank shows up, looking to collect from Dennis and Mac. Frank is interested in the pies, and he becomes more intrigued when Charlie refuses to sell them. Eventually, Charlie agrees to give them to Frank in exchange for Frank returning everything to the status quo. And Frank accepts the offer. Finally, we see that Mac is impressed by Charlie's business acumen and that he desperately needs to go to the hospital. Instead, he wants to go to the Costco to buy more fancy nuts. Charlie kept it crypto, right?
He kept it crypto, dude. Did those look dry as shit to you, or was it?
It was a great gag when he goes to the entire bit of Charlie Day. That just great physical comedy when he bites into it. And even Dennis is watching because he kind of knows, like, oh yeah, these are. And do you these were a real thing. I'm like 98% positive. Definitely getting some Rick and Morty, the Szechuan sauce from McDonald's. Definitely getting shades of that right here.
Right. Yeah, I think they sound super familiar. I know there was an ice cream push-up pop. I'm sure
these were a real thing. I'm like, they were green, and I'm like 99% positive these were an actual thing. Are they? Did you own them? Do you remember how these tasted? If you remember how these tasted, let us know in the comments on social media. I know they were a thing. I'm pretty sure I ate one, and the only thing I can think of as far as they tasted was like vanilla green. I'm just remembering, like, is it possible, vanilla ice cream, but like with green, I guess? Purple's a flavor, right?
Green tastes a little green,
Green can taste green. Guys, I think we're fully inflated. Mills, you're sleeping like a pool king tonight. Before we hand out our awards for this episode, let's check out the public response for this one. What's it been like?
It started up. It's gone down a touch. The Gang Inflates currently has a rating of 8.4 on IMDb, which puts it in a 12-way tie for 76 overall amongst Sunny episodes. Again, been 164 of them. So that roughly puts it in the top 50% of Sunny episodes. Goldilocks is drawn for me. Is this too high, too low, just right? Roughly top 50%. Is this just like slightly on the good half of Sunny? And I think that's probably about right. Again, started out at like an 8.9, come down a little bit. I think it's going to settle right here in this 8.4 range. So I think that's probably about right. Top 50%. Any thoughts?
It's pretty much right in that range. But it's kind of on that range, though. I would say it's either at it or slightly below it. But it's I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think probably right there, if not maybe a little bit on the lower end of that. Just because, like, I mean, not that this was a bad episode. It wasn't really like a gateway episode like you would want from season one. It didn't really set the stage for anything other than here's some more Sunny, which is fine, but. Like I said, it's not a knock your dick in the dirt episode or anything, but it was a solid episode, man.
That's good soup.
Well, this was the third season premiere post-zombie season. Season 14 was The Gang Gets Romantic, and season 15 was 2020, A Year in Review. Where do you guys put The Gang Inflates amongst these three?
For me, The Gang Gets Romantic is easily the bottom. Remember, that was the Airbnb episode with the couple, and they're like trying to hook up, and it turns out that they, again, spoiler alert for all the Sunny episodes, they had a dead kid named Teddy or whatever, and it's not funny. And it was not one of my favorites. I remember that kind of like really had me worried going into 14. I actually loved 2020 A Year in Review when it came out, and I think it was fine, but like Soup just kind of referred to here, it's very much an artifact of its time. So it's not really consequential. There's nothing that carries through. So I think I'd have to rate him probably like Inflates 2020, and then Romantic way down there, like in a bottom tier by itself.
For me, I'm close, but it's slightly different. For me, I've got 2020 A Year in Review slightly ahead of this one. And then I've got Gang Inflates at number 2. And then again, Romantic, I agree. It's down there, and it's not even close.
We're all pretty close here, at least on the bottom one, man. But as far as the top 2 go, I'm gonna go with The Gang Inflates as the better of the 2 out of that, as far as like a season opener or whatever. However, I didn't really feel like this was much of a season opener. It didn't really lean into that. Like I said earlier, it didn't really set the stage for a new season or anything. Didn't really bring about storylines or anything like that. It was basically just a fucking episode of Sunny. But that's cool because that's what it was, So there you have it.
And Sunny is always really well written. One of the things we enjoy about it the most, but we have a little bit of fun giving alternative titles for episodes. It's just something we do. The Gang Inflates, I'm not going to lie, very solid title, but it's nuts. And I mean nuts to think we couldn't come up with an alternative or two, right? Soup, you got something, don't you?
Nuts. Fancy nuts. That's what I got. Fancy nuts. The gang gets fancy with nuts.
I like that. I've got Money Talks, and then I've also got The Gang Gets Good at Business. I think that would have been a fun one too. The Gang Gets Good at Business.
Yeah, I had to play on that. I like the just like more straightforward, like The Gang Does Business, because they can't kind of understand. I like Charlie Gets Crypto. That's got like a nice kind of alliteration to it. On the nuts thing, if I had to do one, I would say probably actually, you know what? I'd go with Mac Blows. I would just go with Mac Blows. Maybe that could be a fun one. But if it was going to be real esoteric or some shit, give me Kim Kardashian's backside, the early years.
The early years.
Very nice. It is the Wonder Years, and that brings us to our award tour. And the first stop is our favorite quote or piece of dialogue from The Gang Inflates. Magnum Mills, lead us off here.
Oh, man, there are so many good ones here, but I am just going to go with a quote from the opening scene. And, the guys have to establish that it all just basically boils down to your nut.
Basically, it boils down to your nut, right? Like, how much, nut do you go through a month, right? Are you storing up your nut, or are you just blowing through it? Like, okay, how much nut do you guys blow through in a month?
I don't want to talk to you about...
Man, for me, I'm going to give it up to somebody who really was worthless this entire episode, and that's Dee. Dude, when she comes in to Charlie's apartment, she's got the cutout door glued to her hand, and she's like a bat out of hell, and she steps into that huge empty room, and she's like,
Holy shit, Charlie!
Yeah.
This is tits! Why don't you use this room?
I don't know, man. That just made me laugh so much. Like, that was like the one thing with Dee where I was like, all right, that was cool.
And yeah, dude, if I'm gonna go with one of my favorite quotes or whatever from the episode, I'd have to say it was kind of a reoccurring thing.
What happened to your lips?
Huh?
What happened to your lips?
Oh, it must be from the plastic.
It's probably from all the blowing.
The plastic on these is a little bit irritating.
It's not the plastic. No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is.
The next stop on the award tour is our favorite scene or moment from The Gang Inflates. Guys, for me, I guess I gotta go with... I'm going to go back to the beginning. I really like the scene in the bar where you got, kind of Mac and Dennis behind the bar. You got Charlie and Frank sitting at the table having a beer, and they're just kind of having this talk about inflation and economics and all this stuff. And then you got Dee calling, everyone's phone kind of in this panic. I don't know, man. That to me was kind of everyone had a purpose, and the gang was kind of together in their own way in that scene. It worked really well for me. So I'm giving it up for that one.
Jamie G goes with the opening scene. Soup, favorite scene or moment besides the nut runner?
Yeah. No more than Nut Runner, man. Because that's not just one particular scene. So, if I'm gonna bring it down to one scene, man, I really think I'm gonna go to the one where Frank discovers Charlie's little like extra room or whatever, and he has to keep going and answering the door, and he keeps coming up with different shit to say. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna need to get a butler now. I got to walk 100 miles in the door and shit. So that whole scene and just how, just randomly, that's when people came by and everything, which obviously was probably unlikely and everything. But for what it was, it made for a good moment in that show, in that episode, man. So I'll give it that one.
Perfect. Love that one. I am going to go with the capstone to Jamie G. He wanted the opening scene. Give me the final scene when we get first the reveal of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies to Dennis.
Oh, wow. I've got a lot of questions.
Yeah, me too.
Sure, go ahead.
Now, Charlie, did you take all of my money and invest it in a box full of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies?
Yes. Very good, Dennis. Very good. I wasn't sure you knew what they are. Yeah, so these are like from 1991. These are the original ones.
And then the whole bit with Frank where Charlie out-businesses him, and you just see Charlie eating the old, dry, crusty Ninja Turtle pie, and you can tell it's so rancid. It smells so bad that it's you're like, oh, like, I knocked it out of the park, man.
Even Charlie had that down, man. He had trouble choking that thing down, dude.
He did.
That was
That's
no
saying
bag of
something for
spaghetti,
Charlie,
dude.
man.
There was no bag of spaghetti.
No. Great scenes. But next up, this is one of my favorites. It's our 5-star man or woman from the Gang Inflates. This is where we rank the characters in the episode from a scale of 1 to 5 stars, with 1 star being the worst and 5 stars being the episode MVP.
I think easiest way here, we'll just kind of go through 1 through 5, knock them out. My 1 star, pretty easy, D. Sorry, Caitlin, you just didn't get anything to do this episode. 2, Mac. Yeah, you ate the nuts. You finished the can. Congratulations. Enjoy the hospital. 3 stars, Dennis. Middle of the road this episode. Didn't really win. Didn't really lose. 4 stars, Frank. Again, didn't lose, but he still had to pay to get everything to go back to the status quo. But again, he still actually owns the buildings. He's owning, not renting. My 5-star man with a bullet. Give me Charlie, because he wins at business. All episode, no one wants to let him make his pitch. He makes it. He convinces them. And maybe we didn't think it was good, but it was good enough to beat Frank. He gets the room sealed back off. I think Charlie is the happiest at the end of the episode. Charlie, my 5-star man. Jamie G, who are your 5-star people?
Wow. Well, there's not going to be a whole lot of variance here. Actually, there's not going to be any. My 1 star is going to be D. I totally agree. She basically was useless, although she did have 1 or 2 moments. They just didn't do much with her in this one. Mac, he's my 2-star man. I mean, he basically was just blowing and blowing and blowing and swelling and swelling and swelling, and eventually, boom. So Mac, he just didn't.
If we were ranking blowing, Mac would be first.
Mac would be first in a blowing ranking.
If we were ranking blowing, Mac would be first.
Absolutely. Dennis is my 3-star. I've got Frank as my 4-star because same thing. He got what he wanted, but he's got the, he's advanced. He made the, he doubled money. He got $5, gave $5, got 10. He got the properties. He did everything right, but he did have to kind of, he lost to Charlie in the end, and therefore Charlie Day, Charlie Kelly himself. That's my guy. He is going to be the 5-star man.
Soup, bring it home.
Well, fuck, man. This is not a blowing competition. So I'm staying pretty similar to what you guys said, although at the lower end here is a little bit of a switch up. I'm putting Dennis at number 1 this week, just because I thought Dee was just a touch more entertaining with the minimum amount of shit that she did. I really don't think Dennis served a whole lot of a purpose in this episode either, man. So Dee had that little bit more of an entertainment and comedy value for me. So she gets number 2. Dennis gets number 1. Number 3, sticking Mac there with his fucking lips, dude, and I thought he did a good job at, like, yeah, maybe they didn't have much for him to do, but what he did do was pretty fucking extreme. I mean, he played it off pretty well. He did good at it, and he leaned into the whole, blowing and the lips and the plastic and the inflation or whatever the fuck. He played the part pretty good, man. So he gets 3. Number 2, I'm giving to Frank, dude. For the same reasons of you guys, and number 1 is obviously Charlie, man. He just killed this episode and stole it. So
congratulations, Charlie, our consensus 5-star man.
He deserves it. Even after all these years and multiple bailouts, we're still trying to create a self-sustaining economy. We're going to keep handing out the Paddy bucks until it works or the bailouts end. Let's grade this episode titled The Gang Inflates on a scale of 0 to 100 Paddy's bucks. Soup, send us on our way. Hey.
You know what, man? I'm going to give it 67.50 in Paddy's bucks.
Surprised you didn't give it a 69?
And I thought that's what people would think I was going to do. So I fucking just went right on the edge of it like that. And that's fine. 68 to even it up instead of doing the decimals and fractions. 68 is fair enough, man. And 69 would be fair too, but
68 is his final answer. Way to take it to the edge, man. I'm going to be a little bit higher than that. I've got this thing at an 80 even. So 80 Paddy's bucks for me.
That brings it to me. I think I'm higher than both of y'all, but not like through the roof. I'm going to go with 83 Paddy's dollars, Paddy's bucks. We're handing them out. Hopefully that's enough to stimulate the economy. Is it? I don't know. We'll have to find out. And since the first 2 episodes of season 16 aired on the same night, we don't really have any predictions to do here. We all seen the first 2 episodes. Please check out our podcast and YouTube feeds for our episode covering season 16, episode 2. Frank shoots every member of the gang. And spoiler alert, he does it.
Thank you guys for checking out the Night Pod Cometh. We are absolutely thrilled to be covering brand new episodes of this show. If you have any thoughts on this episode, or you know what, any episode or anything sunny, just for shits and gigs, go ahead and let us know. Comment on this, or hit us up on our social media at Night Pod Cometh. Just get at us. Get at me, dog. Mills, please fill in any details I might have forgot. Other than rest in peace, DMX.
Since you so nicely referenced DMX, I'm going to let you slide and cover for you. Again, Night Pod Cometh, wherever you get your pods, on YouTube, on social media, at Night Pod Cometh. Don't forget those flaps. They're important. Follow, like, and please subscribe. You don't got to do them all. Just do one. If you had fun, give us that thumb. This has been the Night Pod Cometh. I am Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G. That's Soupdeucer. Thanks again for not only checking out our show, but being a fighter for the Night Pod Cometh.
Whoa!
And I'm all out of nuts, man. So, fuck. We need to go to Costco, man.
Yo, it's the Green Machine. Gonna rock the town without being seen. Have you ever seen a turtle get down? Slamming and jamming to the new swing sound. Yeah.